Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. I'm Wesley. I'd been with Avery for almost 4 years. 4 whole years, 2 of which we spent living together in a small downtown apartment that had the charming aroma of burnt toast and occasional plumbing drama. It wasn't much, but it was ours. Our cluttered little love nest with a broken ceiling fan and an emotional support coffee table. We'd even started talking about buying a house next year. You know, real grown-up stuff. Mortgages, lawnmowers, coordinated IKEA trips without homicide. I was convinced she was the one, the final boss in the dating game. I was even sneaking peeks at engagement rings online, toggling between solitaire diamonds and do I need to sell a kidney for this? Yeah, stupid me. Then last month, things got weird. Like, rom-com third act conflict weird. It was a Thursday night. Late dinner. I just dragged myself home after a marathon shift at work. One of those days where even my socks were tired. Avery had ordered pizza, which I appreciated, but she didn't even bother to set the table. That was red flag number 1. Red flag number 2? She was glued to her phone like it contained the secrets of the universe. Every time I walked by, she'd pull that screen down like she was hiding national security secrets. But I kept my mouth shut, because I'm a mature adult who believes in communication. Or at least I did, until this train wreck of a dinner. I sat down, grabbed a slice, and barely had time to chew when she cleared her throat like she was about to fire me from our relationship. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she said. Oh, thinking. That's never good. Nobody ever says, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and follows it up with, and I love you more than ever. Let's adopt a puppy. Nope. She had that weird serious face on, like she'd practiced this speech in the mirror while brushing her teeth. She continued, I've realized. I'm polyamorous. The pizza literally lodged itself in my throat. For a second, I thought this was how I died. Cause of death, emotional whiplash, and mozzarella. I blinked at her, trying to understand if I'd heard right or if I was just hallucinating from fatigue. But no, she was still talking, still unraveling my entire reality like it was a poorly knit sweater. Monogamy, she went on, is a social construct. Ah yes, the good old societal shackles defense. Never mind the fact that we built a whole life together under this construct. I guess I was just a placeholder until she discovered TED Talks and Poly TikTok. She was really going for it now. I've been suppressing my true self for years. Oh, so all those sweet date nights, Netflix marathons, and me plunging the toilet while she laughed from the couch. That was all just deep repression? And I need the freedom to explore connections with other people, she said. Connections. Cute. Like Wi-Fi? But that doesn't mean I love you any less, she added. Right. Just a different kind of love. The kind that apparently comes with guest stars and side quests. And the whole time she's saying all this, her eyes keep darting to her phone like she's waiting for a push notification from God. Or, you know, Thomas. That's when it clicked. You don't just wake up one day and become polyamorous mid-relationship unless there's a little extracurricular activity going on. Guys don't get this speech out of nowhere, I said, dropping my crust. There's someone else, isn't there? She looked offended, like I'd accused her of clubbing baby seals. This isn't about any specific person, she said, doing that overly sincere tone that's basically a lie with glitter on it. It's about my authentic self. Oh sure, because nothing screams authentic self like emotional infidelity with a side of pizza. I raised an eyebrow. Who is it? She hesitated. Fumbled. Classic. After some dramatic squirming and enough eye contact avoidance to qualify as a sport, she finally caved. Fine. Thomas and I have been talking again. Thomas. Her ex. Of course it's Thomas. The man, the myth, the human cargo pants of her past. So let me get this straight, I said, trying not to choke on rage and pepperoni. You've been talking to your ex behind my back, and now, suddenly you're polyamorous? We're just reconnecting as friends, she said quickly. But yes, there might be feelings there I want to explore. That doesn't mean I love you any less, she said, like that somehow made it better. Like that was the magic phrase that would make me say, oh cool, go ahead and bang your ex then. As long as your love for me stays exactly medium rare. So I pointed out, reasonably, I thought, that what she was actually doing was asking for permission to cheat on me. With her ex, no less. That's when she got defensive, all offended like I'd just called her mom ugly. You're reducing something beautiful to something crude, she said, clutching her metaphorical pearls. This is about connection and self-discovery. Uh-huh, right. If self-discovery involves Thomas's pants, we're no longer in the realm of beauty. We're in the Bermuda Triangle of betrayal. And you can also explore connections if you want, she added, magnanimously, like she was tossing me a dog treat. Yeah, thanks, Avery. I'll just jump on Bumble and see if anyone's interested in a guy emotionally wrecked and living with a newly poly girlfriend who's emotionally involved with her ex. That's hot, right? Let's be real. This wasn't about me having options. This was about her wanting to test drive Thomas 2.0 while keeping me in the garage just in case he broke down again. I wasn't a partner anymore. I was the spare tire. So I asked, trying not to sound like I was choking on a stress-induced aneurysm, "And if I say no to all this?" She straightened up in her chair like she was about to accept a Nobel Peace Prize. "Then you're choosing to limit my personal growth and autonomy," she said, all serene and self-righteous, like she was reading from a yoga studio's breakup script. "I'm doing this with or without your permission, Wesley. I just hoped you'd be evolved enough to grow with me." Oh, got it. So the options were: Option 1, accept her cheating and get a gold sticker for being evolved. Option 2, get dumped and be labeled a closed-minded Neanderthal who hates growth and probably yells at clouds. Some choice. Thanks for that empowering menu of emotional manipulation. Really appreciate the "would you like to be slapped or punched" approach to relationships. So after that delightful little enlightenment seminar, I looked at her, calm, composed, dead inside, and said, "You're sleeping on the couch tonight." She blinked. "Wait, what? Yeah, you want to go explore connections? Start by exploring the living room. I need some time to process your journey without you breathing on my neck." She huffed and mumbled something about me being emotionally reactive, like I was overreacting to the minor inconvenience of my girlfriend emotionally dry-humping her ex. She stormed out with her pillow like a martyr on a pilgrimage to the futon, muttering about boundaries and self-love. And I swear I heard her whisper patriarchy under her breath like it was a spell to ward off accountability. I lay in bed, my bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling like someone had shoved my brain in a blender set to existential crisis. For whole years of my life, gone faster than Thomas's zipper, apparently. I thought about the ring I'd been secretly saving up for. I had a folder full of tabs labeled engagement inspo and everything. I was that guy. I helped her pay off her credit cards, twice, because apparently, fiscal responsibility is also a social construct. My wallet was monogamous even if she wasn't. I moved to this city for her job, leaving behind my hometown, my friends, and the only barber who didn't screw up my fate. I rearranged my whole damn life like it was IKEA furniture, and now I'm being told that I'm the problem for not wanting to share my girlfriend with her ex named after a chain of gas stations. I barely slept. My thoughts were louder than her passive-aggressive sighs from the couch. Every little red flag from the past few months started connecting in my head like a toxic constellation. The passcode on her phone that suddenly changed? Oh, I'm just being more private. Sure. So private, even I wasn't invited into the relationship anymore. The girls' nights that started lasting until sunrise. We just lost track of time. Uh-huh. Right. And the new clothes she said were just for herself? Okay. Then maybe stop spinning in front of the mirror practicing your, "Oops, I didn't know you were home" face. Classic cheating, just rebranded with buzzwords and a faux spiritual TED Talk voice. And then, just when I thought I'd hit rock bottom, I remembered something. Or more specifically, someone. Layla, Avery's half-sister. Now that was a vault of family dysfunction if I ever saw one. Avery and Layla share the same dad, but different moms. And they haven't spoken in almost 3 years. And not because one forgot the other's birthday. I'm talking Cold War levels of silence. Back when Layla's mom was battling cancer, actually going through hell, Avery had this magical way of making everything about herself. Like, it was almost a gift. An annoying, narcissistic gift. She'd skip hospital visits, claiming they were too depressing, and then have the audacity to post on Instagram about how hard the situation was for her. The final straw? Oh, that came crashing down at the funeral. You know, the kind of day that's supposed to be somber, respectful, filled with reflection and actual mourning? Yeah, well, not if Avery's involved. Layla had written this heartfelt eulogy for her mom, spent days on it, apparently. It was going to be the emotional centerpiece of the whole service. But then Avery, never one to let human decency get in the way of stealing a spotlight, somehow convinced their dad to let her speak first. And oh boy, did she deliver. She got up there with her solemn face and proceeded to give what can only be described as a tragic slam poetry open mic night. She read this bizarre poem, clearly written that morning, probably with the help of ChatGPT or some Pinterest quote board, about grief as a river and love as a swan, or something equally unhinged. She even cried dramatically at her own lines like she was auditioning for a soap opera titled, "This Isn't About You, Avery." Layla just stood there, stunned, holding her printed eulogy while her sister gave a one-woman show at their mother's funeral. When it was finally her turn to speak, Layla's voice cracked before she even made it to the second sentence. The moment was gone. Hijacked. And Avery? Instead of staying to console her grieving family, or, maybe acknowledge the emotional earthquake she just caused, she vanished. Literally ghosted out of her own mother's funeral. Apparently, she needed time to process her grief. Translation: she went to brunch with her friends to talk about how hard this had been on her. Layla never forgave her for that narcissistic circus act, and I couldn't blame her. Honestly, I always liked Layla. We got along whenever we saw each other at family stuff. She was sharp, funny, had that dry wit I appreciate. And most importantly, she didn't treat other people's tragedies as a stage for her spiritual monologues. Basically, she was Avery's exact opposite. Like, if Avery was a walking chaos goblin, Layla was a spreadsheet with perfect margins. So when Avery left for her first official date with Thomas, yeah, they were calling it that now, I did what any emotionally fried, spitefully petty man might do while reeling from a betrayal sandwich. I found Layla on Instagram. I know. This is where the plot really starts spiraling. But to be fair, I wasn't thinking clearly. My long-term girlfriend had just blown up our relationship in favor of a poly journey with her ex, and I was left in the apartment we built together like an unpaid extra in a breakup movie. Layla's profile was clean, simple, and, unlike Avery's, didn't feature any vague captions about healing or beach selfies with spiritual quotes. Just a bio that said she'd gotten divorced last year. Divorced. Recently single. Interesting. I sent her a message. Something casual. Said I needed some family insight and wondered if she'd be up for a coffee. She responded surprisingly quickly. Probably because the last person she expected to hear from was me, the ex of the sister she hadn't spoken to in 3 years. Was it messed up? Yeah, a little. Okay, a lot. I mean, in the logical, grown-up part of my brain, I knew reaching out to my girlfriend's estranged sister immediately after said girlfriend turned our monogamous relationship into a TED Talk on sexual liberation was probably not the healthiest coping mechanism. But I wasn't exactly in a rational state of mind. My emotional compass had been drop-kicked into the ocean. And deep down, way down, a small, petty part of me was already imagining the look on Avery's face if she found out I was grabbing lattes with Layla. Looking back, this was definitely the fork in the road. The exact moment where I could have taken the high road. Broken up with Avery like a fully functional adult. Packed my bags, maybe journaled in a coffee shop, screamed into a pillow, bought a cactus and named it Closure. But nope. Avery wanted to explore connections. Cool. I had a connection I was suddenly very interested in exploring too. Because here's the thing about Layla. She wasn't just the opposite of Avery in attitude. She was the deluxe model. All the charm, zero of the chaos. Smart? Check. Witty? Check. Zero history of gaslighting me into a philosophy lecture about why infidelity is actually spiritual growth. Big, glowing neon check. And, yeah, I'll say it, she was hot. Like, annoyingly hot. The kind of hot where you find yourself trying not to stare, but also thinking, wow, genetics really just gave up by the time they got to Avery. Layla had this confidence about her. Quiet, poised, nothing forced. She walked into that cafe like she owned the place, and when she sat down across from me, legs crossed, wearing this fitted sweater that hugged every curve like it had a personal vendetta against my focus, I suddenly forgot every polyamorous manifesto I'd heard in the last 72 hours. I mean, her figure? Let's just say if I were less emotionally traumatized, I'd have written a thank you letter to whoever invented yoga. Every time she leaned forward during our chat, my inner gentleman was in a street fight with my inner disaster of a man. So yeah, this wasn't exactly a noble moment. It was messy, slightly vengeful, and let's be honest, I was thinking things that would have made Thanksgiving very awkward if she could read minds. But Avery wanted to open things up. Great. I wasn't just opening a door, I was about to kick it off the damn hinges. So, I met Layla at this quiet little cafe downtown. Neutral territory, low risk of running into Avery's poly cult. And let me tell you, Layla showed up looking way more put together than I felt. I'd barely managed to brush my hair and not cry into my shirt. She looked like she'd just walked out of a commercial for emotional stability. She had this calm, grounded energy. Total contrast to Avery's usual whirlwind of drama and heels vibe. And when she smiled and said, "It's been a while," I almost chickened out. I mean, how do you tell someone, "Hey, so your sister imploded my life and now I'm using you as emotional damage control"? Cool with that? But after some awkward small talk about the weather, coffee, and how funerals really aren't the best place to debut spoken word poetry, I just laid it all out. So, Avery told me she's polyamorous now. I said, complete with exaggerated air quotes around polyamorous, like I was describing a made-up word from a teenage Tumblr blog. Layla raised an eyebrow mid-sip of her latte. Seriously? Oh yeah. She wants to start seeing her ex again. You know, Thomas. The tattoo guy who's allergic to employment. Layla rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck up there. Shocking. So I laid it all out. The whole, it's who I really am monologue. The evolved love, the TED Talk on monogamy being a social construct, the implied threat that if I didn't go along with it, I was stunting her emotional rebirth. Basically the greatest hits from the album of delusion, Polly or Die. Layla wasn't even fazed. She just nodded along like she was watching a rerun she'd seen too many times. You're not shocked by any of this? I asked. She snorted. Wesley, this is classic Avery. She wants what she wants, and she'll always find a way to rebrand it as some kind of philosophical revelation. She could rob a bank and convince herself it was a protest against capitalism. Honestly, that sounded accurate. Layla went on to tell me Avery had been planning this for months. Months. Apparently, she told their cousin Kylie back in March that she was reconnecting with an old flame. March. That was 4 months ago. You know what I was doing in March? Helping her mom move apartments. Sweating through 3 floors of stairs and bubble wrap while Avery texted her ex from the front seat. Also me in March. Covering all our rent. Because Avery had decided to find her passion and quit her job with absolutely zero plan other than to scroll through Etsy and pretend it was career development. So yeah, love, not exactly feeling it at the moment. Then Layla gave me this look. Like she was trying to solve a puzzle, she already had most of the pieces too. So what are you going to do? She asked. I shrugged. Break up with her, I guess. What else can I do? Cry in the bathroom? Develop a drinking problem? She tilted her head, still watching me carefully, like she had a chess move loaded and ready. You could get even. I blinked. What do you mean? She wants to see other people while keeping you on standby, Layla said, leaning in just slightly. Fine. 2 can play that game. Okay. At this point, I assumed she meant I should go download a dating app and match with someone whose idea of polyamory didn't involve reuniting with their thieving ex. But nope. Layla had something way more specific in mind. She told me that Thanksgiving was coming up at their dad's house in a few weeks, and guess who had already RSVP'd with a special guest? That's right, Avery. And her +1 was almost definitely going to be none other than Tattoo McUnemployed himself, Thomas. And apparently, the entire family was dreading it. Because fun fact, Thomas once stole money from their dad and then denied it. Real winner, this guy? Can't wait to hear what philosophical position that was rooted in. But what if you showed up too? Layla asked, her tone suddenly way too casual for what she was suggesting. I blinked. What? Like crash Thanksgiving? She leaned forward. With me. I nearly choked on my coffee. With you? Like with you? With you? She didn't even flinch. Why not? We've always gotten along. You're objectively attractive. I'm newly single, Layla said, sipping her coffee like she was just stating a casual weather report. And it would absolutely destroy her to see her boyfriend with her sister. I blinked. Ex-boyfriend, I corrected automatically. At least, that's what she's calling me now. Layla grinned. Even better. At first, I laughed. Like, haha, funny little idea. Let's all imagine the chaos and then go our separate ways like responsible adults. But then she kept talking. Calmly. Rationally. Like she'd already visualized this entire scenario down to Avery's facial expression and maybe even the group chat reactions afterward. That's when it hit me. Layla was dead serious. This wasn't just her helping me get back at Avery. No. Layla had her own little revenge campaign tucked neatly into her back pocket, and I'd just wandered into it like the emotionally wounded pawn that I was. Every time I try to move on and live my life, Layla said, she finds a way to mess with it. Maybe it's time she learned what that feels like. I stared at her, trying to process the psychological landmine she'd just casually tossed on the cafe table between us. One part of my brain was flashing red alerts. Terrible idea. Soap opera territory. Turn back now. But the other part? The petty, freshly betrayed, emotionally scorched part? That part was rubbing its hands together and saying, this is actually kind of perfect. Look at those melons. But wouldn't this just prove her point? I asked, doing my best to play devil's advocate while also not totally hating the idea. You know, about monogamy being outdated or whatever? Layla shook her head. No, because you're not claiming to be polyamorous. You're just moving on. With someone who actually respects you. There's a difference. And damn it, she had a point. I wasn't preaching about dismantling the nuclear family or redefining love as a communal art project. I was just a guy who'd been metaphorically set on fire by his girlfriend and was now being handed a bucket of gasoline and a smile. I thought about it some more, then glanced at her. Your dad would freak out. She smirked. Dad knows what Avery is like. He'll be shocked at first, sure, but he'll get over it. Besides, he likes you. I groaned, rubbing my temples. This is insane. Crazier than your girlfriend suddenly deciding she's polyamorous so she can bang her ex with your permission? Again, fair point. We ended up talking for hours. What started as a plotting session to ruin Thanksgiving evolved into a surprisingly deep conversation about life, love, and all the flaming garbage in between. Somewhere along the line, the revenge fantasy took a back seat, and I realized I actually liked talking to her. I learned more about Layla in that one evening than I had in all the years of knowing her through Avery, where she'd always been more of a background character in the sitcom of my relationship. She told me about her divorce. Turns out her ex had also cheated. Classic workplace romance with a coworker named Britt or Bree or some other cheese-adjacent name. She told me about her job as a pediatric nurse and how she loved it, even if it meant dealing with screaming toddlers and terrified parents on the daily. And then she told me she was planning to go back to school for her master's degree, just casually dropping in the fact that she had ambitions and drive. What a wild concept. I opened up too, told her about my work, my family back in Ohio, and, for some reason, I even told her about my dream of opening my own business someday. As I walked home that night, I felt conflicted. There was a part of me, the emotionally bruised, still processing part, that felt guilty, like I was doing something wrong. I mean, I was technically spending time with my ex-girlfriend's estranged sister as part of an unspoken Operation Emotional Payback plan. That's not exactly in the healing handbook. But then I remembered Avery's face. The smug little smile as she told me, not asked me, mind you, that she was seeing Thomas, whether I liked it or not. That whole, "This is about my truth," speech while she clutched her phone like she was waiting for a text from Gandhi. She'd changed the rules without even consulting me. Cool. Now I was just playing the game by her rulebook. Don't like the new rules? Sorry, babe. I'm just being evolved. When I got home, Avery was in full glam mode, getting ready for what I could only assume was a tantric crystal healing dinner with Thomas. She was wearing this slinky black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, the one that cost me half a paycheck and 3 arguments with my credit card company. She did a little twirl like she was auditioning for The Bachelor. "How do I look?" she asked. I didn't even blink. "Great," I said flatly, with all the enthusiasm of a DMV employee. Then I casually threw in, "I'm grabbing dinner with a friend tonight, so don't wait up." She actually looked surprised. Probably because for the past week, I'd been shuffling around the apartment like a guy who'd just watched his dog, car, and dignity all go off a cliff in slow motion. "Oh, that's good," she said, perking up like this was a milestone in her personal self-help memoir. "Who are you meeting?" "Just someone from work," I lied smoothly. "Thought I'd take your advice and start being more social." She smiled, like she was proud of herself for liberating me from the cruel shackles of fidelity. "That's great, Wesley. See, opening up our relationship is going to be good for both of us." If only she knew who I was really meeting the next night. Spoiler alert, it was not Brad from marketing. She'd find out soon enough. And something told me her enthusiasm for expanding our love was about to undergo a very sudden contraction. The next day, I told her I was going hiking with some people from work. She barely looked up from her phone, probably mid-text with Thomas about their chakra alignment workshop or how to make ethical almond milk. I met Layla at the trailhead, and to my shock, it was weirdly not weird. She showed up in actual hiking clothes. You know, like someone who read the weather forecast and understood gravity. Not Avery's version of hiking clothes, which usually involved yoga pants she'd never done yoga in, a floppy hat, and a tank top designed more for Instagram thirst traps than basic human function. Layla had a real backpack, with actual water bottles, and snacks. Not cute, little Pinterest fruit in a mason jar kind of snacks. Trail mix, with nuts, and zero regard for aesthetics. Just pure, rugged nutrition. I think I might have fallen a little in love right there. The hike itself was amazing. No detours every 5 minutes for selfies. No, wait, the light's better from this angle nonsense. Layla just hiked. Like a normal human being who respects nature and doesn't treat every rock formation like a potential thirst trap backdrop. She kept up with me on the steep parts and didn't complain once. After that day on the trail, things moved fast. Like, wait, are we actually doing this? Fast. Layla and I started seeing each other pretty regularly. Usually whenever Avery was off deepening her sacred connection with Thomas, which, frankly, was most evenings and weekends. At this point, I was pretty sure they had a punch card at whatever ethically non-monogamous cafe they were frequenting. The contrast between the two sisters? Night, and are you kidding me? Layla was honest, direct. No cryptic sighs, no passive-aggressive texts, no dramatic pauses followed by "nothing's wrong," when clearly everything was wrong. When she said she'd call, she actually did, without turning it into a mysterious spiritual lesson on intentional silence. And when she was upset, she used words like a full-grown human being with access to language. It was like dating an adult for the first time. A magical, slightly terrifying, fully refreshing adult. 3 weeks into this double life, I decided it was time. Time to start moving my stuff out of the apartment I shared with Avery. Not all at once. This wasn't a dramatic breakup montage. It was more like a slow, quiet evacuation. A shirt here, a book there, some toiletries vanishing like they'd been raptured. I told Avery I was decluttering as part of my emotional growth journey, because God knows she couldn't resist a man with a spiritual Pinterest board. One night, she noticed that half my closet had disappeared. She stood there, arms crossed, eyebrows raised, like a woman who'd caught her boyfriend almost discovering self-awareness. "I'm so proud of you for embracing change," she said, beaming with cult leader energy. "This is what personal evolution looks like." What it actually looked like was me shoving most of my belongings into a duffel bag and storing them at Layla's apartment, where they were safe from Moon Crystals and Thomas. We weren't officially living together, nothing Facebook official or contractually binding, but I was definitely staying over more nights than not. And I told Avery I needed space to process the transformation of our relationship, which in her mind translated to, "He's finally on the path." She was so deep into her thing with Thomas that she barely noticed I was gone. Most of the time, I felt like a friendly ghost who occasionally refilled the burrito. Then came Thanksgiving. Now, Layla and I had strategized this moment like we were planning a covert military op. I was to drive separately, partly so she could get there first and establish her territory like a social cat, but mostly so we'd each have our own escape vehicle in case things went full nuclear. Avery had no idea I was coming. As far as she knew, I was spending the holiday alone at the apartment, probably journaling about my spiritual journey while burning sage and embracing solitude like a man who's truly grown. That morning, she texted me, "Thinking of you today. Enjoy your quiet day alone." No punctuation. Classic. I didn't respond. I was too busy picking out a shirt that Layla said made me look hot, but also like you didn't try too hard, which I think is code for not something Avery would have picked out for you at Zara while guilt-tripping you in the fitting room. Yeah, I was nervous. Nervous as hell. Not just because I was about to confront Avery at what might now be the most chaotic Thanksgiving since the Pilgrims got food poisoning, but because I was walking into that house as Layla's boyfriend. Not Avery's. Layla's boyfriend. Talk about awkward. I showed up about 30 minutes after Layla, just enough time for her to get in, settle the social landmines, and plant the flag of strategic ambiguity. My hands were sweating as I rang the doorbell, gripping a bottle of wine like it was a shield that could protect me from the disaster I was voluntarily walking into. The door swung open, and there was Layla's dad, eyebrows raised like he'd just seen a ghost wearing cologne. "Wesley, what are you doing here?" he said, surprised but not in a get-off-my-porch way. More in a "we have extra chairs but also questions" way. Come in, come in." I stepped inside, heart pounding. I immediately scanned the room like I was checking for snipers. And there she was, Avery, sitting on the couch, curled up like she was starring in a holiday ad for yoga pants and emotional detachment. And next to her, Thomas. I just knew it was Thomas. He had those stupid little stick-and-poke tattoos on his knuckles, like he'd lost a bet with a teenager. The kind of guy who probably thinks deodorant is limiting your natural aura and calls himself a healer despite having no discernible skills beyond wearing scarves indoors. And then it happened. Avery saw me. Her face did a whole Broadway show in 5 seconds. Confusion, shock, and then this weird, strained smile that screamed, "I'm fine. I swear I'm fine." My eye is twitching from joy. "Wesley, what are you doing here?" she asked, voice tight like she was trying to keep her head from exploding in front of the cornucopia centerpiece. Before I could answer, Layla strolled in from the kitchen like she'd been practicing her entrance in the mirror. She wiped her hands on a dish towel, walked straight over to me with zero hesitation, and did something that will be forever seared into my memory. She slid her arm around my waist and leaned into me like she'd done it 100 times. Like we were already old news. Like she had absolutely no intention of being subtle. "You're late," she said loudly, with just the right amount of fake annoyed girlfriend tone. And the room? Dead. Silent. It was like someone had unplugged the entire house. You could hear the emotional power grid collapsing in Avery's brain in real time. Her face morphed from forced cheer to full-on Disney villain origin story in 2 seconds flat. "What is this?" she practically shrieked, eyes wide, face twitching. Layla's dad looked from her to Layla to me like he'd just realized this wasn't a family gathering. It was a live-action therapy session. He tried to throw a lifeline of reason into the chaos. "Language, Avery," he said gently. "And what do you mean?" "Wesley's family. Of course he's welcome. Especially with her." He gestured to Layla like it was obvious. Which, to everyone except Avery, it kind of was. Avery's mouth opened and closed like a fish that had just realized the tank water was full of betrayal. My sister, she spat. Are you kidding me? Thomas, bless his crystal-charged soul, looked like he wanted to disappear into the couch cushions and meditate his way into another timeline. Layla stayed calm, like disturbingly calm, like someone who had rehearsed this entire thing in the mirror with a wine glass and a playlist. Well, she said, brushing imaginary lint off my arm. Since you're polyamorous now, Wesley is free to explore connections, too. Avery exploded. That doesn't include my sister. I finally spoke up, because apparently no one else was going to narrate the absurdity happening in real time. Well, Avery, I said, loud enough for the cousins in the back row to hear. You're seeing your ex, so really, we're both just exploring our authentic selves. You know, exactly what you wanted. You could have heard a pin drop. Or, in this case, a fork midair. The entire family was frozen. Like we'd all just hit pause on a Netflix drama titled Holiday Implosion, a love triangle Thanksgiving. Layla's aunt and uncle, cups of wine suspended halfway to their mouths like they were in a Renaissance painting called What the Actual Hell. The kid is banging both the sisters. Her teenage cousins? Phones out, already filming. I'm 90% sure that video hit TikTok before dessert, complete with a fire emoji caption and the hashtag polyfamilycos hashtag. Avery's dad cleared his throat. Polyamorous, Avery? What is Wesley talking about? And that's when the turkey hit the fan. Avery launched into what I'm sure she thought was a graceful, academic explanation of polyamory, except she was doing it while also melting down about me dating her sister. So, not the best optics. It's about love being abundant and not restricted to just one person, she said, voice rising, eyes darting around like a trapped raccoon. It's about freedom, honoring connections, expanding your emotional bandwidth. Avery, her dad interrupted, pointing directly at Thomas like he was a loaf of expired bread. So you're cheating on Wesley with this guy? Thomas, bless him, tried to introduce himself right then. He opened his mouth, probably to say something soft and full of chakras. But nobody heard a word because everyone collectively decided, nope. It's not cheating if everyone consents. Avery snapped, face now a shade of crimson usually reserved for warning labels and rage-induced hives. Layla, who had disappeared into the kitchen like a pro, waltzed back and holding a tray like this whole circus act was totally normal. She casually piped up, did Wesley actually consent though? Or did you just announce you were doing it regardless? Avery stomped her foot, like an actual child. I'm shocked she didn't throw herself on the floor and scream into a decorative pillow. This is sabotage, she cried. You've always been jealous of me. First you stole Dad's attention with your perfect grades. Then you got the college fund, and now you're trying to steal my boyfriend. I raised a hand. Ex-boyfriend, I said, real casual. Since you decided we should start seeing other people, remember? And then it happened. The argument evolved like a Pokemon into a full-blown family therapy session. Generational wounds were unearthed like we'd hit emotional bedrock. Suddenly, it wasn't about me and Layla anymore. It was about the divorce. Their mom's funeral. The time Avery borrowed Layla's car and returned it with a huge dent and an empty gas tank. Everyone had grievances and nobody had whined strong enough for this. At one point, Avery turned to me with real tears in her eyes. Big, watery guilt missiles. I can't believe you would do this to me. With her, of all people. I didn't do anything to you, I said calmly, because one of us had to pretend we were still grounded in reality. You changed our relationship without my consent. I'm just adapting to the new rules. The tension in that room could have cut diamonds. You could taste the emotional damage. Layla's dad, ever the peacemaker, clapped his hands together. All right, everyone. Let's all sit down for dinner before the food gets cold. Somehow, miraculously, we made it to the table. It was like seeding a minefield around mashed potatoes. Avery sat across from us, glaring daggers at me and Layla while angrily cutting her food into angry, passive-aggressive cubes. Every time someone tried to start a neutral conversation, football, the weather, pumpkin pie, it circled right back to the elephant in the room. We were halfway through dessert when Layla's teenage cousin, clearly emboldened by TikTok clout and zero life experience, decided to casually lob a nuclear question across the table. So, how do Thomas and Wesley both feel about sharing a girlfriend? I swear I heard a record scratch. Avery choked on her drink so hard I thought she was going to eject a lung. Thomas turned a shade of red that would make a fire truck jealous. I just sat there, stone-faced, chewing pie like it was my full-time job. After what was easily the most uncomfortable dinner of my entire life. And I've had Thanksgiving at my divorced aunt's house during her mid-divorce spiritual awakening. People started to peel off in different directions. Some went for a walk. Some went to check on the dog, which I'm pretty sure was code for escape this circus. I went to the bathroom for a brief moment of solitude with a soap dispenser that didn't scream at me about polyamory. And of course, because the universe loves drama, when I opened the door to head back out, there she was. Avery cornered me in the hallway like she was about to offer me a timeshare presentation or stab me with a dessert fork. Her voice was soft. Too soft. Can we talk privately? Against all my better judgment, and because part of me is still an idiot, I said, sure. We stepped into one of the guest bedrooms. Door closed. War officially resumed. What are you doing, Wesley? She asked, spinning around to face me. Is this some kind of sick joke? No joke, I said, calm as ever. Layla and I are together now. Her mouth dropped. But she's my sister. Half-sister, she corrected, as if that made it better. Who you haven't spoken to in years, who you've treated like crap her entire life. She flinched like I'd slapped her with a truth stick. That's not fair, she said, almost whispering. Life isn't fair, I shot back. You wanted polyamory, remember? This is what it looks like. She blinked, stunned. How long has this been going on? About 3 weeks, I said, casually like I was talking about a new Netflix series. Her jaw dropped again. 3 weeks, and you're already bringing her to family Thanksgiving? You're moving that fast just to hurt me. Not everything is about you, Avery, I said, which, let's be real, was revolutionary news to her. She let out this bitter little laugh that sounded like it had been aging in resentment barrels since 2019. Real? She repeated. You're dating her to get back at me. And she's dating you to hurt me too. That's not real. That's revenge. Maybe that's how it started, I admitted. But it's become something else. She stepped closer, trying the classic move, the nostalgia hand on the arm. Her voice softened again. Wesley, come on. This is crazy. We've been together for 4 years. Are you really throwing that away for some revenge fling with my sister? I gently removed her hand, like it was on fire. No, I said. You threw it away. When you decided you wanted to sleep with Thomas whether I agreed or not. Remember? Her face hardened. The guilt was gone, replaced by that cold, smug defiance she always defaulted to when she lost the upper hand. Fine, she snapped. Have your little revenge. But don't come crawling back when she gets bored of you. Trust me, I said, I won't. The rest of the evening was tense, but at least no one was throwing mashed potatoes. Avery did a solid hour of angry sulking, probably manifesting hexes on Layla from across the room. Eventually, she stood up, grabbed Thomas, who still looked like he'd just survived a hostage situation, and declared loudly enough for the neighbors to hear. This family is toxic and unsupportive. Layla didn't miss a beat. Don't forget your emotional support water bottle, she called after her. And there it was. Avery's infamous $50 water bottle with Hydrate Your Soul scrawled in faux handwritten font. She took it everywhere, like it held her last ounce of moral superiority. Avery flipped us off and slammed the door. After they left, Layla's dad just sort of deflated onto the couch like someone had unplugged him. Well, he said, rubbing his temples, that was unexpected. Sorry about the drama, I offered, awkwardly holding a plate like it was my apology. He waved it off. Not your fault. Though I have to say, dating one daughter and then the other? That's unconventional. Yeah, I said, not exactly the Thanksgiving Hallmark special we were aiming for. We stuck around for another hour, helping with dishes, pretending we hadn't just caused the social equivalent of a kitchen fire. Layla dried while I stacked plates like a man trying to restore order to the universe one casserole dish at a time. Eventually, it was time to go. I felt drained, like I'd just run a marathon while emotionally tasered. But I also felt weirdly relieved. The bomb had gone off. The fallout was swirling. And somehow, miraculously, Layla and I were still standing. In the driveway, under those horrible motion sensor lights that make everyone look like a raccoon mid-mugshot, Layla reached over and squeezed my hand. Well, she said deadpan. That went exactly as expected. I laughed. Complete disaster. Total show, she nodded. But kind of worth it, right? I looked at her, really looked at her. She was smirking, confident, unfazed in that weirdly grounding way only Layla could pull off. I nodded. Absolutely worth it. Of course, neither of us had a clue that the real drama was just getting warmed up. Turns out when you emotionally nuke someone's worldview over stuffing and sweet potatoes, the radioactive fallout lingers. Who knew? That night, my phone started blowing up like it owed someone money. 37 missed calls. 37. From the same person. Not counting the texts, which came in like they were being fired from a machine gun that ran on passive-aggressive energy. It was a full emotional range. How could you do this to me? Please just talk to me. You're a manipulative jerk, and I'm going to tell everyone the truth about you. So, the hits just kept coming. I blocked her number. She switched tactics. Emails, friends' phones, even a LinkedIn message. Who does that? What am I supposed to do? Endorse her for emotional blackmail and impulsive life decisions? Eventually, I blocked everything, carrier pigeons included. The next day, while Avery was at work, presumably trauma dumping on her coworkers about betrayal and organic soul cleansing, I went back to the apartment to grab the rest of my stuff. I'd already moved most of the important things to Layla's place. Laptop, sentimental junk, my pillow that actually supports my neck. But there were still some clothes, books, and gadgets lying around. I packed everything in about an hour. Didn't even cry once, which I feel like deserves some kind of adulting ribbon. Before I left, I dropped my key on the counter and left her a note. Nothing dramatic. Just, thanks for suggesting polyamory. Never would have found Layla otherwise. Don't worry about the rent. I paid your half for the next 2 months. Consider it a parting gift. Maybe that was petty, but honestly, I figured I'd earned a little pettiness. I thought that would be the end of it. You know, explosion, fallout, silence. Clean break, fade to black, cue emotional healing montage. I was wrong. 2 days after Thanksgiving, Avery showed up at Layla's apartment. Unannounced. Of course, Layla wasn't home yet, still at the hospital doing actual useful things like saving children and not emotionally detonating holiday dinners. But I was home. I saw Avery's car pull up through the window and seriously considered pulling a full possum, play dead, hide behind the couch, maybe hiss if approached. But no, I figured it was better to face this thing head on like a grown-up. Or at least like someone with semi-decent peripheral vision and no escape route. When I opened the door, I almost didn't recognize her. Puffy eyes, messy hair, wearing sweatpants in public, sweatpants. This woman once refused to leave the apartment without bronzer and earrings, just in case we ran into someone important. You're a piece of shit, she said. No hello, no warm-up, just straight into it. I sighed. Good to see you too. You did this to hurt me, she hissed. You don't get to play the victim here, I said, leaning against the doorframe like I was auditioning for the role of exhausted but done. You changed the rules without asking me. So this is punishment? She snapped. Dating my sister? No, I said. This is me moving on. She scoffed like I told her I was marrying a lamp. You wanted polyamory. I wanted you. I looked her in the eye. But when I couldn't have just you, I found someone who wanted just me. That one landed. She didn't say anything, just sort of blinked like she'd caught a whiff of humility for the first time in years. This isn't over, she muttered. Then she turned and stormed back toward her car. But, of course, she couldn't just leave it there. Halfway down the driveway, she spun around like she was in a bad soap opera. You'll regret this, she said, finger pointing dramatically. Both of you. And then she drove off in a cloud of engine sputter and misplaced rage. When Layla got home, I told her about the surprise episode of Avery Unhinged, Apartment Edition. She didn't even blink. Yeah, she said, kicking off her shoes. That sounds like her. Apparently, this sort of last-minute, emotionally explosive confrontation was Avery's specialty. The woman had a flair for the dramatic that could have earned her a recurring role on any Real Housewives franchise. Layla just sighed and suggested we keep a low profile for a while. Maybe skip any restaurants or coffee shops where Avery might pop up mid-manic meltdown. But we didn't have to wait long to find out what Avery meant by this isn't over. Later that week, she went full scorched earth on social media. She posted this long, unhinged rant about how her abusive ex, me, apparently, had seduced her vulnerable sister as some kind of elaborate revenge plot. Claimed I was weaponizing polyamory and shaming her and manipulating the narrative to control women's bodies. It was like a TED Talk on delusion, sponsored by Projection and Persecution Complex. Of course, she conveniently left out the part where she'd sprung polyamory on me like a surprise party from hell, or that she'd been reconnecting with Thomas months before dropping the bomb. Most people saw through it. The comments section was a split between, "Girl, what? Didn't you dump him first?" and her ride-or-die friends foaming at the mouth in defense of queen energy and liberated femininity. I didn't respond. Neither did Layla. We just posted a photo of us at the museum, smiling, relaxed, looking like two people who weren't currently spiraling on the internet. No caption. Didn't need one. The social media storm died down after a few days. But Avery wasn't done. She started going full PR crisis mode, telling mutual friends I was controlling and manipulative during our relationship, that I had isolated her from her friends and family, which is hilarious because she was the one who called everyone toxic and blocked them during Mercury retrograde. Apparently, I was now also turning Layla against her. As if Layla needed a single nudge after 20-something years of being used as Avery's emotional punching bag in between yoga retreats and online chakra tests. Some friends believed her. Actual people I had once loaned money to or helped move apartments were now sliding into my DMs with messages like, "Hey man, just checking in. Avery's saying some stuff. What's your side?" My side. Oh, just that she cheated on me, unilaterally redefined our relationship, and expected me to smile through it while she played Tinder Olympics with her ex. But I didn't bother defending myself to most of them. The people who actually mattered, they knew the truth. The rest could go repost her healing crystals for heartbreak, TikToks in peace. Then, about 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, Carmen knocked. No, drop-kicked the door down. Layla got a call from her cousin Kylie. Apparently, Thomas, yes, tattooed Thomas of the tantric energy and stolen family money fame, was seeing at least 2 other women while dating Avery. Layla raised her eyebrows at me across the kitchen. So, should we tell her? I didn't even blink. Not our circus, not our monkeys. But Avery found out anyway. Apparently, Thomas wasn't subtle. He posted pictures with another girl on his main account. Main account. Not even the courtesy of a Finsta. No captions. Just her sitting in his lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. Probably hashtagged it soul vibes. Avery absolutely lost it in the comments section. It was like watching a TED Talk unravel in real time. This is a violation of ethical communication. Polyamory requires honesty. You're doing it wrong. Oh, the irony. The woman who threw a live grenade into our relationship, now discovering that surprise. The guy known for cheating is cheating. Even while poly. Watching her meltdown online was like watching someone slowly realize gravity exists. Wait, water is wet. The guy who betrayed every ex he's had also betrayed me? This is an outrage. The only thing surprising about it was how surprised she was. Meanwhile, Layla and I were good. Really good, actually. And I get it. People expect this to have been just a rebound. A mess. A rebound mess. But once the initial chaos faded, we realized it worked. Layla was direct. She didn't play games. When she was annoyed, she told me. When she was happy, she told me. When she wanted Thai food and not Italian, she told me. Instead of passive-aggressively sulking through 3 courses like her sister used to. We were equals. Actual partners. Not just 2 people orbiting around one person's mood swings and Pinterest boards. About a month after Thanksgiving, we were lying in bed, watching a movie, some rom-com Layla picked where no one threw a wine glass or yelled about polyamory, when my phone buzzed. New email. From Avery. From yet another new address I hadn't blocked yet. Honestly, I think she might have created more Gmail aliases than burner boyfriends at this point. Layla glanced at me. You gonna read it? I sighed. Do I have to? Absolutely not, she said, reaching for more popcorn. But now I'm curious. So I opened it. It was long. Paragraphs. Paragraphs of what she probably thought was vulnerability, but read more like the opening chapter of a dramatic Wattpad novel titled The Monogamy Manifesto, My Truth. She wrote about how she'd made a terrible mistake, how Thomas had shown her what real betrayal felt like, how she now realized monogamy was her authentic truth after all, and how, wait for it, she was willing to forgive me if I ended things with Layla and came back. I showed it to Layla. She read it silently, didn't say a word at first. Then she snorted, and the next thing I knew she was wheezing with laughter. God, she said, wiping a tear. She's so predictable. First she wants freedom. Now that she got roasted by Thomas the Tantric Wonder, she wants her emotional security blanket back. Yeah. So what do I even say to this? I asked. Layla leaned back with a smirk. Nothing. Or, her eyes lit up like she just discovered sarcasm had a turbo mode. We could send a joint response. Just a photo of us in front of our new place with the caption, "Thanks for setting us up. Best decision you ever made." We both burst out laughing. No, we didn't send it. I'm impulsive, not suicidal. There was no need to poke the bear with a flaming stick. But God, it felt good to laugh about it. To feel like the power dynamic had finally shifted back to something sane. And honestly, that whole moment crystallized something for me. It hadn't just been about the polyamory thing. That was just the firework finale of a long, slow-burning dumpster fire. The real damage had been in all the little ways Avery chipped away at me over time. Like an emotional sculptor trying to turn me into her ideal blend of yoga-practicing hipster therapist boyfriend and personal assistant. She'd constantly compare me to her exes, usually the rich ones, or the ones with raw energy. One of them was a dude who sold vegan candles shaped like historical dictators. Yeah, he had edge. She'd roll her eyes when I talked about video games. Called my favorite podcast Mansplaining Noise. Told me my dream of opening my own business was cute, but maybe unrealistic. Meanwhile, her dream was to start a podcast for healing through sensual movement. But I was the impractical one. With Layla? None of that. I felt like myself. Just me. And she liked that guy. She didn't want to improve me, or evolve me, or open my third eye. She just wanted to go on hikes, eat tacos, and binge true crime. What a concept. Then came the apartment wars. I was still technically on the lease with Avery until the end of January, and she clung to that technicality like it was her emotional life raft. First, she changed the Netflix password. Okay, petty. Fine. I'll just watch stuff with Layla and never have to scroll past that quantum dating docuseries she kept in her queue. Then she accidentally broke my gaming headset, the expensive one I'd left behind in my rush to get my dignity out of there. Then she started throwing out my mail. One of them was a new debit card. Another was an invite to a friend's wedding. Oops, must have thought it was junk, she texted, followed by a smiley face. Petty queen behavior. But I wasn't sweating it. All the important stuff, clothes, tech, legal documents, hoodie I actually cared about, was already moved. I figured the worst was over. I was wrong. She escalated. Hard. She called my mom. My phone rang one night, and I picked it up to hear, "Wesley, honey, is everything okay?" Oh no. Full first name tone. That's never good. What? Yeah, everything's fine. What? Well, Mom hesitated. Avery called me. She was crying. Said you were in some sort of cult-like polyamorous relationship. I almost choked on my drink. I what? She said you're involved with multiple women, Mom continued. And that it's some kind of devil-worshipping, sexual cult commune situation? That you're not thinking clearly, and she's really worried. I just sat there, stunned. Avery had weaponized my mom. My sweet, Midwestern, church-going, cardigan-knitting mom. And so began the most surreal conversation of my adult life. I had to explain the whole story to my mom. I thought the chaos had finally tapered off. Avery had gone radio silent. No Instagram live rants. No poetic subtweets about betrayal and masculine fragility. Not even a single vague story about being stabbed by those closest to her. Foolishly, I took that silence as peace. Turns out it was just the calm before she launched a full-scale emotional airstrike. Last week, I got a text from one of our mutual friends, Jenna. Heads up, Avery's on her way to your office. She looks pissed. And by pissed, she didn't mean upset. She meant storming the castle with torches level pissed. I immediately called down to security, but nope, too late. Apparently, she'd already charmed her way past the front desk by claiming she was there to deliver a surprise lunch. Because nothing says turkey sandwich like wild eyes and vengeance. Next thing I know, she's standing in the doorway of my department, holding a giant envelope like it's Exhibit A in a courtroom drama. We need to talk, she announced loud enough for the entire floor to turn their heads. I could feel Carl from accounting lean out of his cubicle, popcorn energy radiating off him. I grabbed her elbow and marched her to the break room, trying to keep my career from joining my love life in flames. What the hell are you doing here? I hissed once the door closed behind us. She slapped the envelope onto the table like she was delivering a subpoena. You need to see these. Inside were color-coded, annotated printouts, because apparently Avery prepares for emotional confrontations like a high school debate team. She'd printed screenshots of texts between Layla and her cousin Kylie, dated the week after I'd first reached out to Layla. Texts like, "This is the perfect revenge. He has no idea he's just a pawn." And the piece de resistance. I don't even know if I like him like that yet. I just know this'll kill her. It was like watching a Lifetime movie unfold in Comic Sans. According to Avery, these screenshots were proof that Layla had orchestrated the whole thing, using me as a weapon of mass emotional destruction. She was just using me to get back at Avery. She's playing you, Avery said, her voice all smug and righteous like she was the host of a daytime talk show revealing paternity results. She washed my face with that gleam, half pity, half I just want energy. This was all a setup from the beginning. She doesn't care about you. I stared at the printouts, stomach churning. They looked real. Messages between Layla and her cousin Kylie, supposedly from the week Layla and I first started talking. The timing lined up. The screenshots had names, timestamps, even those stupid blue iMessage bubbles. It was like emotional malware, crafted to infect every ounce of trust one had. How'd you even get these? I asked finally. Kylie felt guilty. Avery said, eyes wide with faux innocence. She sent them to me last night. She thought you deserved to know the truth. Right. Kylie, who once called Avery a walking cry for help in overpriced athleisure. That Kylie, suddenly feeling loyal to her estranged cousin. Sure. But the texts, I couldn't shake them. They were dramatic as hell. Lines like, he has no idea he's just a pawn. This is the ultimate revenge. Wait till she sees us walking together. Like some villain monologue written by ChatGPT with a flair for teen drama. It didn't sound like Layla, but the doubt still crawled in like a raccoon through a broken window. I'll need to talk to Layla about this, I said. Avery's face lit up like she'd just won Miss Manipulative USA. Of course you do. And when you find out I'm right, she smiled sweetly. You know where to find me. Then she left, probably imagining I'd sprint into her arms by sunset, like the third act of a rom-com. Only thing missing was a soundtrack and a desperate airport chase. I sat there for a few minutes in the break room, just staring at the pages. Then I texted Layla. Hey, can you meet for lunch? Something's happened. She responded almost instantly. An hour later, we were sitting at this little cafe near my office. I didn't say anything, just slid the envelope across the table like I was handing over a case file on a conspiracy theory. Layla read in silence, flipping through each page slowly. Her face went from confused to insulted to pissed in under 30 seconds. These are fake, she said flatly, shoving the pages back toward me like they were covered in mold. They look pretty real, I muttered, feeling a little like an idiot. Wesley, look at the date. May 16th. I was at a medical conference in Phoenix that entire week. My entire department was there. I posted like a dozen photos. I pulled out my phone and opened her Instagram. Sure enough, there it was. May 16th. A photo of her hotel room with a caption about needing blackout curtains. May 17th. A shot of her conference badge, followed by pictures of her with coworkers at some tacky chain restaurant. That message says it was sent at 2 p.m., she said, pointing at the screenshot. I was literally on stage giving a 45-minute presentation at that time. She pulled up the conference website, clicked through to the video archives like a damn FBI agent. And there she was, on stage, talking confidently about pediatric care protocols with a slide deck behind her and a very visible timestamp at the bottom of the screen. So unless Layla had mastered the dark art of simultaneous telepathic betrayal texting while giving a professional talk in Phoenix, the messages were, without a doubt, grade A bullshit. Avery made these up. Badly, Layla said, crossing her arms. The grammar's too clean. The drama is cartoonish. And Kylie? She wouldn't side with Avery if they were the last two people on Earth during an alien invasion. I felt this massive wave of relief crash over me, followed almost immediately by white-hot anger. She came to my workplace with fake evidence, I said, rubbing my temples. She ambushed me. She's desperate, Layla said, voice calm now but edged with heat. She can't stand that her plan backfired, that you're happy without her, that I'm happy with you, that she has to face consequences for once in her life. That evening, Layla and I just looked at each other and, without even saying it out loud, decided enough was enough. The drama had passed its expiration date. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was emotional spam. Time to uninstall Avery from our lives, once and for all. So, we drove over to her apartment. We didn't text. We didn't call. We just showed up. Bold move, I know, but honestly, after she fake spy planted those Frankenstein screenshots at my job, I figured this was overdue. She opened the door wearing the kind of smug expression you'd expect from someone who thinks they're about to get an apology serenade. You could practically hear her mentally composing a "he came crawling back" Instagram caption. But then she saw Layla beside me. That smirk? Gone. Like someone pulled the power cord on her face. The messages are fake, I said, skipping pleasantries. I wasn't in the mood for her usual soap opera warm-up act. Layla was at a medical conference. There's video evidence. Time-stamped. No chance to sneak out and text your cousin about revenge plots. Her face flickered like a broken Wi-Fi signal. First confusion, then irritation, then this wild attempt at innocence that might have worked if we had both suffered simultaneous head trauma. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. Kylie sent those to me. If they're fake, she's the one. Stop, Layla cut in, her voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. Just stop. Now, full transparency, we hadn't actually spoken to Kylie. At all. Our bluff was held together with duct tape and desperation. But Avery? Folded like a deck chair in a hurricane. Her face just collapsed. She dropped the act and went into this soft, broken whisper. You need to stop this, I said before she could pivot into crocodile tears. No more showing up at my work. No more fake screenshots. No more Instagram pity parties with vague captions. It's over, Avery. She blinked at us and then said, quietly, pathetically, you ruined everything. It caught me off guard, the way she suddenly looked so small, so deflated. We were supposed to get married, have a family, and then you threw it all away. No, Layla said, her voice calm and clinical, like a surgeon explaining a diagnosis. You threw it away the moment you decided Wesley wasn't enough. When you wanted everything, on your terms, with no consequences. I loved him, Avery insisted, and now the tears did start. The slow, cinematic kind, like we were on the finale of some prestige cable drama. I sighed. You love what I gave you. The security, the attention, when you wanted it. The silence, when you didn't. You loved the idea of me as your emotional insurance policy. While you went off and explored with Thomas and his crystal collection. We left her standing there in the doorway, still blinking back tears, still probably trying to think of a way to spin this into a victim monologue for TikTok. As we walked to the car, I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Relief. Actual relief. No buzzing anxiety. No dread of the next shoe to drop. The emotional whack-a-mole? Finally over. That night, Layla and I sat on her couch, wine glasses in hand, and began the sacred ritual known as the blockathon. We blocked Avery's newest Gmail address, the one she used to send her emotional novel-length apologies. We blocked the numbers of mutual friends who had just wanted to hear my side, but still somehow ended their texts with, "But Avery seems really hurt." We blocked every possible way she could reach us. Then we did what any emotionally exhausted couple recovering from a nuclear-grade breakup would do. We bought plane tickets to Italy. Summer escape. A fresh start. New scenery, better food, fewer manipulative exes. It felt like breathing clean air after living next to a landfill. 2 days later, Avery found another way to sneak past my digital perimeter. A new email address. This woman could work for the CIA with the amount of accounts she burns through. But this one was different. No rage. No gaslighting. No novel-length psychoanalysis of our dynamic. Just 4 lines. "I'm sorry. I see what I did now. I hope you're both happy. Please don't contact me again." I stared at it for a while. Read it twice. Then a third time, just to make sure I wasn't missing a hidden guilt trap or subliminal message coded in punctuation. But it was clean. Just done. I didn't respond. What was there left to say? Sometimes, yeah, I think about how differently things might have gone. If she'd just been honest from the start. If she'd actually talked to me like a partner instead of springing surprise lifestyle shifts like she was Oprah handing out sexual awakenings. You get polyamory. You get polyamory. Everyone gets a crisis. If she'd respected me enough to make decisions with me instead of for me. But then I roll over, see Layla asleep beside me, and realize that somehow, miraculously, Avery gave me the greatest gift possible. Freedom from a relationship that was basically a haunted house with Pinterest decor, and the chance to find something real. Something solid. Something where communication doesn't mean guessing which one of her moods I'm supposed to decode before breakfast. As for Avery, last I heard, she's dating some self-proclaimed relationship guru who hosts workshops on conscious uncoupling and wears bracelets made of volcanic ash. You know, for grounding. I wish her well. From a distance. A very, very large distance. Life is weird sometimes. Karma is real. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.